What is up, responsible day traders? It is Sunday, June 26, 2022. I'm Lindsay Duff, and this is Responsible Day Trading. So we're coming into a new week. We're right here at the end of the month for June, which things have been a little wild. So we're going to be checking it out here in just a minute. Just to let you guys know, I did get a new microphone. I got a new microphone and I don't think I love it because my other one just went kaput. So if you guys got some suggestions on some good microphones to use, possibly that I could get from Amazon, let me know please, because I am open to some suggestions. All right, so let's go ahead and get this kicked off. We're going to look at the news. I haven't looked at it yet, so we're going to see everything together today. I've just barely peeked at the market. I mean, last week it did pull back, and we're going to look at that, and we're going to try and determine if it's going to pull back more. It's a little hard to tell right now, but we're going to look at it. So let's just go ahead and get this party started. Okay, guys, so as always, let's go ahead and start off with the news. So first thing that we're going to want to do is go over here to news, and we're going to look at market news. So when we head over here, what do we got this week? Okay, we got some stuff every day this week. So Monday, we have some pre-market at 7:30, and then 9 a.m. we're going to have a little bit more news. So 30 minutes after the market opens, we might see it move in just a bit. Tuesday, also 30 minutes after market opens. Wednesday, we have pre-market both at 7:30 and 8. And then an hour after the market opens, we've got crude oil inventories. Thursday, pre-market. Friday, after the market opens. So this could be a very interesting week because we do have a little bit of news every day. All right, let's go ahead and see what the market has to say for us. So as always, I like to start from the top and work my way down. So we're going to start off with the daily chart here. Now, if we're looking at the daily chart, this is a very interesting look to it right now. I said previously I was looking for something like this to happen, but you can see we moved inside of the Bollinger Bands quite a bit here. And we closed all the way at the top of this bar. I mean, as extreme as you can get at the top of that bar on Friday. So the question is, are we going to open right here and push back down and show that hard close up, hard close down situation? Or are we going to continue seeing this price come up into the area of the EMAs? So somewhere like right up in here, as we saw previously, where we hung out in that area several times before it pushed down. Now, the divergence did tell us that we had a good opportunity for this to pull back. The fact that these EMAs are wide and spread apart tells us that we have a little bit of a chance for this to just pull up a little bit more, reach that top Bollinger Band, and push down again. So what would be ideal if we're really going to expect this to continue up, to get some movement back to the upside and have lots of space to run, is to see this pull up, come back in and sit inside of the Bollinger Bands, not push through like we see here and here, and just bounce off of that band and then push up. Right now, the EMAs, they are picking up strength to the downside. They're not exactly what I would call super strong to the downside. Super strength to me is where it stays wide and spread apart for quite a bit of time. But it's just the beginning of this move to the downside. So we may see something like that happen. But for right now, we're still inside of the Bollinger Bands. This BB could very easily turn weak and pull down. So it's going to be an interesting look. Maybe we can get some more information by looking at the next charts. So the next biggest chart I look at is the 28,657. So the 28,657 is my overall momentum. The daily chart's just too big for that, right? So the 28,657 knocks it down a little bit and gives us a little more to work with. Now, what happened here told us that we were at least going to get the pull back down. You can see price just led higher here, and MACDs not only couldn't keep up, but they rolled inside of the Bollinger Bands, didn't even reach that top Bollinger Band with those white BBs as we saw here. And that white really means that we've had an extreme move and we can expect a pullback or a turnaround to happen before too long. And so we see not only that picking up, or we see that not only pulling out of the Bollinger Bands, but it looks like it is trying to pick up some pace outside of the Bollinger Bands. So is this area that we broke through gonna hold and push this back up to the upside? Hey, it might. We may see this pull all the way back down into the EMAs here, or even the EMAs here. If they pull back into the EMAs here, and obviously by the time this gets all the way down here, these EMAs are going to move up just a little bit more. So we usually try to anticipate our targets just a little bit higher because these are going to continue up. So if it pulls back all the way to here, one of the good things about seeing it pull back into this particular area is this is a resistance area that held several times. It's kind of like the nature of the market to pull back into those areas that held before, and a lot of people will pick up some trades at that point and move it back to the upside. So currently the direction is up with the possibility of it to pull back down. What we need to see is the reaction we're going to have at this area, how the MACDs are going to behave. Is this BB going to roll back in? I mean, technically we've got 18,000 transactions left on this before this bar closes. So this bar could do a lot in those 18,000 transactions. We could actually see this one whole bar pull down and make a long, long movement and just keep pushing down to the area. But holding up at this area is expected, you could say. So let's go ahead and just pop on over and see what we got going on. All right, now one of the things that we see here is that our EMAs were strong to the upside. And you can see as it's trying to really pull back into this area, what's happening with our MACDs here. There's only 540 ticks left here, and let me turn this off, but you can see the MACD BB is really working to push its way down. Now I'll tell you why. It's because of this strong opening push that we had to the downside. That strong opening push is going to make this BB really react and push down. So what I like to do in situations like that is kind of wait for the next BB to see if this is going to separate and pull away, and the next BB makes some distance between it, like we see right in here, the distance between the BBs. But if it doesn't, we may see it roll back up and come back up. Now, we do have some pretty decent divergence between these pivots as well, and we can see how we've got these white caps at the top, which tells us we've kind of run out of that steam. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to turn the whole market around. It just says we've run out of steam. We cannot see this pushing up right here, right now at this moment. Now, one of the good things to seeing this still pushing up is what we see going on right here on our trading chart, the 1597. We have just a little bit of divergence going on between these pivots that happened right in here. So the price and the MACDs both pushed down. They came back up, which definitely gave us divergence between these pivots, and that said more down because we could see that the price really pushed up there and the MACDs couldn't get the strength to come up that high. And that's totally understandable because these bars are so big and long. The MACDs just can't keep up with that, which is really great for us because it helps us to see that divergence and understand when we're going to have a slowdown, in what direction we should be looking for the movement. Now, this divergence is not strong, okay, but we do have it there. And you can see right here, this BB couldn't even make it outside of the Bollinger Bands when it got down there, gave us a nice long reversal bar to push it back up. So as I said, we can see the immediate trying to move down, but the overall is still up. So are we going to see something similar to a W pivot? Typically for the W pivot, we'd like this to be a little bit lower so it can make a W. But are we going to see something typical of a W pivot where this is going to push back up and move back to the upside? If I'm looking at my 233 right now, we do have the MACDs sitting at the 0 line and the EMAs attempting to open up to the downside. Now, this is our smallest tick chart, so I like to say we don't really quote unquote trust it as much as we would looking at the bigger charts, because it's going to shift and change directions so much quicker. This is why we use the 1597 to see where we're anticipating the moves, and we're using the 233 to really just lower that risk. I mean, if I wanted to get in here right now, I wouldn't be able to. We do have this bar that's pulled back that we could technically have our risk behind, but the low pivot right now is back here. So the place where we'd want our risk would be somewhere right below here. And we can't make that happen unless we're going to choose to have 6 points in risk getting in on a long trade. So the anticipations of the pullback were definitely there. Can we take it now? You wouldn't really want to because that just puts a lot of risk on the trade. And you want to think about this. We're coming into that first area where we can anticipate a push or a bounce back down. And that is right here into the EMAs. Now, while these EMAs are not as strong as we see on the bigger tick charts, what we do know is it can still give us a bounce. And that bounce may be enough just to pull you back far enough to take you out of your trade if you got in at this point and you have your risk back below here. So it's just a higher risk area to get in. It doesn't have as much of a high probability of working out as if you were to get in an area that gave you a lot more room to run back to the first area that could give us a bounce. So those are the type of things that you want to keep in your mind as a trader. Where is my target? Where should my stop be? Am I at an area that could potentially give me a bounce? And we can just look at these price bars and the way they've been behaving lately. If you don't really zero in on where you need to get in with these trades, then you have the possibility of being taken out. Something as simple as, let's just even look at this right here. Let me move this back a little bit and we'll take a look at what happened right in here. This would be a signal technically to get into a long trade. But when it doesn't cross that top Bollinger Band and all these bars are going up and down and up and down, you're really pushing yourself and putting yourself in a situation where you could more than likely get stopped out when it pulls back a little bit deeper. Now, once the MACDs start to cross the top Bollinger Band, they pull back with some weakness like we see right here, and they give you a nice little area to get into the trade at this point. Now we can see also right in here that weak little pullback starting to get to the upside. This gives us a much more viable area to take a long trade and not have as much fear of your stop being hit, because right here is about 2 points. Now, here is your next, it's going to be a little hard to get in here while it's pulling back still and showing a little bit of strength down. So once it gets weaker and it shows us this right here, man, it is go time. You miss that, it pulls back a little bit more. It gives you this little bitty pullback, and it gives you great space to keep your risk. As long as you are looking at something like we look at here at Responsible Day Trading, with a 2 to 2.5 point risk, then these are going to be great little areas on the 233 to think about getting into these trades. And then when it pulls back right in here, leading so much higher, that's a great place. But what's happening a lot of times is people are trying to get in right in here and they're getting stopped out quite often. And that can be a little frustrating. So you're getting in when it pulls back to the EMAs on the 233 and not paying attention to what it's saying on your 1597, the trading chart. So it gives you a reversal bar, it pulls back in, boom, there's your next opportunity to get into the trade when the MACDs are showing some strength to the upside. And the great thing about these little pullbacks that are happening is it gives us a lot of spaces to run our risk behind, to keep ourselves from getting out of the trade too quickly and allowing it to run just a little bit further. And then by this time, if you're still holding on, you're going to get stopped out, but with some great profits going on there. Okay, guys, so we can see the same type of situation still happening. It pulled back right into this area. Now that it's got a couple of bars sitting here and we can see the MACDs trying to work themselves to the upside, I may consider a long trade, but then I'm going to remember, hey, where's my next area that may give me a bounce? Number one, right in here, but number two is right here. So it's really pretty much the same area. And when these areas line up on more than one chart, they become much stronger and easier to create the bounce. All right, guys. I do like seeing that the MACD is really starting to pull outside. It gives me a little bit more thought process that this might pull back just a little bit more if it is going to continue up. So yeah, would I take anything right now? Absolutely not. I don't see anything viable for myself at this moment. But always waiting on those pullbacks, always waiting for it to give me those signals, looking for reversal bar patterns that agree with my MACDs and my movement and my ability to have space to run to the next area. This doesn't give you a lot of space to run to the next area. So what I'd want to see, really want to see, is maybe getting back above here if we're going to anticipate going up. And another thing to keep in mind is if we're going to get back above there, we want to pull away from it and come back into it, because that's what helps us get that edge and really have the lower risk on the trade. Okay, so you can see at 233, I would have never taken that, but just if it was something that you were thinking about, those are the type of things you need to keep in mind. Where's my next target? Is it far enough off to make it worth taking the trade? Do I still have 2-to-1 risk to reward if I take that? Sometimes even I forget to keep those things in mind, and really that can save you on so many trades. Okay, guys and gals, that is going to wrap it up for my Sunday night. I am craving a salad, and I wanted to get this done in enough time that the place was not closed so I can go pick that sucker up. All right. Guys, just keep your head in the right place. Pay attention. Know what your risk is. Also know that if you take a couple of trades and they don't work out, then maybe your mindset isn't in the right place and you need to take a breath, take a step back and say, okay, what am I missing? And sometimes what you're missing has nothing to do with the market, and it has everything to do with what's going on between these ears. So make sure, your mental health is in a good place. Make sure that you're thinking about the right thing to do and not necessarily thinking about the money, because if you keep your mind on the money, then you're going to take trades that don't really have a lot of viability because you're pressuring yourself into thinking that you've got to make money instead of thinking about the possibilities of doing the right thing. Yeah, that's all she wrote for today, guys. I hope that everybody has the most amazing week. Next week, I will be able to do the video in the morning, but I'm going to be in Vegas. So the week after that, Jason's probably going to have to do the video. I will be working. I'll be available if you still need me. So hit me up. We're just working from a different location for a few days. So, all right, everybody, have a fantastic week. And as always, you know that I look forward to catching you on the profitable side.